day number 11 of Vlogmas. It is time to talk about some movie adaptations that may have come out recently or be on their way very, very soon. Hi everyone, my name is Chloe, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for being here today. Today's video is a Vlogmas video. I'm going to be posting a new video every day in December up to and including Christmas Day. We're doing a mixture of bookish and theatrical content. Today is a little bit of both. I was going to separate these into two videos, but it turns out I didn't really have enough information on either one to do it by itself, so I thought I would just put it all together in one video. And basically we're going to be talking about movie adaptations, be that a book to movie adaptation, a stage to movie adaptation, something that has started life in one of those areas and has now been released as a film or sometimes TV series. So I did a video like this last year where I basically talked about things that I've watched in the year previously and also ones that I was just really excited for coming out, and that's pretty much what I'm going to do this year as well. I will say there's plenty of adaptations on here that I wish I'd got around to doing something with, whether that's the fact that I've seen the film but I haven't read the book, or vice versa, I've read the book and I just haven't got around to seeing the adaptation yet. But there are a few that I can give legitimate opinions on. So let's get started on the adaptations that have been released in 2023. So we'll start off with the obvious one. Heartstopper came out this year. We've had season 1, they've filmed season 2, and I think most people will agree that it was everything that we wanted it to be. It was so well done, it was faithful to the comic books, but while still changing things that needed to be changed for the TV adaptation. The casting was fantastic. I'm not going to sit and gush about this programme too much because I've done a whole video on this one before, but Heartstopper is probably the standout book to TV show adaptation that we have had this year, and I'm very, very much looking forward to season 2. The next one I have that came out this year is one where I've watched the TV show, but I have not actually read the book yet. I've read the first book in this series, but I haven't continued on with it yet, which is a bit irritating because I own all 8 of them. It is Bridgerton. Season 2 came out this year. It was a Kate and Anthony storyline. I really enjoyed it. I think I preferred it to season 1. I just liked the love story more. I've heard that the second book is better than the first book, which the first book got a 3-star from me, so I'm hoping that's the case. But I also do know that we have deviated a fair amount from the book series now, particularly in setting up things that are to come. So season 3 is coming out in 2023, but that is actually going to be based on book 4 rather than book 3, because book 3 should be Benedict's storyline, but we're just going to jump straight to Colin's instead. So obviously the setup of other things has had to change. I believe that Eloise's storyline is very different so far in the TV show as well, so that's going to change a lot when we get to her season. But to be honest, from the bit that I have read of the books and what I've seen of the TV show, I very much prefer the TV show, so I'm fine with all the changes at the minute. I may have a different opinion when I actually carry on reading the books. Another one that came out where I saw the film and haven't read the book, and to be honest, seeing the film maybe means that I won't read the book now. Not that the film was bad, but just I don't really have any interest in picking up the book now I've seen it. It was Where the Crawdads Sing. I enjoyed this film enough. I'm not mad that I went to see it. I've not had any inclination to watch it again since I saw it. The performances were all very good in the film. The storyline kept me engaged enough, but I don't know if I want to read a book about that storyline. And also there are questionable things with that author, so maybe now I just don't read the book. But it was an adaptation that came out this year and I did go and see it, so I thought I would mention it. The next one is one that I was really, really excited for, and then it came out and I enjoyed it, but I was also disappointed in it in some ways. But it felt like it had so much potential to go further, and then Netflix cancelled it. I'm talking about First Kill, which is a sapphic vampire TV show which is based on a short story written by V. Schwab. It was in the short story collection Vampires Never Get Old. And I enjoyed the story, but obviously within a short story it can really only set up the pilot. There's going to be a lot, you're going to need to add a lot more to that whole world and storyline in order to sustain a full series. And they did do that, and some of it I loved. It felt very over the top and very dramatic, but that's not necessarily a bad thing because sometimes that's what you want in a vampire drama, obviously. But there were some questionable elements, the budget that they had on that felt very, very low, particularly there's a scene at the end that had a lot of special effects and it was just okay, this just doesn't feel like you had a lot of money thrown at this series. It did feel like it was setting up for a season 2 that could be very, very good. And then unfortunately it got cancelled. So I'm glad that I read the story and I'm glad that I watched it, and now I'm just a little bit disappointed that it's not going to go any further. Not much else to say. A TV show based on a book that finished this year actually, was able to wrap up its whole storyline properly, was Love Victor, which is a spin-off from Love Simon, which is based on Simon versus Homo sapiens agenda. So we had the final season of Love Victor this year. I very much enjoyed it. I enjoyed this entire series. I'm never going to love it as much as I love Simon versus Homo sapiens agenda and Love Simon. Simon. Love, Simon is a comfort film that I've watched many times, but I did really enjoy the TV show. I liked it more and more as it sort of moved away from the film and kind of the ties that it had to Simon as a character, because in the first series Victor is kind of writing messages to Simon and having him as his mentor, and then he kind of moved away from that and had his own storyline, and I feel like that's when it really came into its own. And I appreciated how they wrapped up this whole series. I appreciate that they actually got to have a final series, and the way that the last episode sort of threw back to some other things and tied things up. I really enjoyed it. I had a good time. We've got a couple here now that I have not watched. One because I probably don't want to, and one because I just haven't got around to it yet, and also I'm trying to decide whether or not to read the book first. So we'll start with the more positive one actually. That is The School for Good and Evil, which came out on Netflix this year. I have not read the book. I'm not sure if I want to read the book, but I need to like make sure I definitely don't want to read it before I see the film, because otherwise what tends to happen, like we've seen earlier, is that I go, oh, I've seen the film now, I don't need to read the book. So I'm still sort of deciding. I have heard good things about the film adaptation, so I'm willing to give that a go even if I don't end up reading the book, but this is one that's definitely still on my radar as a release from this year. And then the one that I don't particularly have any interest in watching, I did originally, I think I put it on the list last year as one that I wanted to watch, and then I saw the trailer and then I realised quickly that this is not something I want to watch because I will just get angry. It was the Persuasion adaptation that had Dakota Johnson in it, and yeah, it just, like, the trailer alone, like some of the ways that it felt like they tried to make it look like Fleabag, like with having these little like asides to the camera throughout it. They'd taken some of the quotes from it that were like these really beautiful passages about love and longing, and then reduced it down to like a very simple way of saying it, and it felt too modern and just also not good. Like every clip I saw of that film made me want to see it less, and then I do know people who have watched it and have told me to stay away from it, so that's what I'm going to do. Persuasion is my favourite Jane Austen book and I don't need it ruined, thank you very much. So I do actually have one last book to movie adaptation to talk about, but I'm going to save that for later on when we get to the musical to movie adaptations, because technically it fits in both. So let's just move on to the upcoming book to movie adaptations that we hope we will see. And I'm saying hope we will see because release dates for things change constantly, so you never actually know. Although that being said, we do have a release date for this first one, which is Shadow and Bone season 2. It's been like 2 years since the first one came out. I don't understand why it's taken them so long. I mean, I do in a way, like obviously the pandemic would have affected when they were able to film. I know all that, but it also feels like they filmed it a while ago and they've just not been given as a release date. But we finally got one this week. It's coming out in March. I'm very excited for it. I am a little bit nervous because now they've released like more promo pictures and things for it. It does seem like the Six of Crows storyline is gonna have to be changed quite a lot, because there's a lot of new characters coming into it this season. Some of them came into book 2 of the Shadow and Bone trilogy. It makes perfect sense to include them. Hi Nikolai, glad you joined the party. But then we've got like the casting of Wylan, and his character does not interact with the Six of Crows characters until Six of Crows starts. Like it's part of the storyline, and I wasn't sure if they were sort of bringing him in and having him have like a separate storyline from them and then eventually they tie it all together. But judging by the pictures, it seems like he's very much part of the Six of Crows story of this season. So I'm a little bit unsure because I would like it to like sort of separate off and have a spin-off and do Six of Crows justice. I don't want it to just be like a secondary storyline to the Shadow and Bone storyline. And it feels like if we're seeing their relationships build already, then that is what's happening. Like it's just going to be in the background of them. And yeah, I'm a little bit unsure about it, but I really love season 1, so I'm hoping it goes well. I've already mentioned that Heartstopper season 2 has been filmed. That has just wrapped very recently as well, so that should be on its way soon. From what we've seen of pictures of that being filmed, it seems like they are still being very faithful to the book. The Paris trip is going to be in there, and I'm very excited to see the Paris trip on film. And then again, another one that I mentioned already, Bridgerton season 3, which is actually going to follow book 4. Like I said, I'm not too mad about the changes of order because I don't know any better at this point because I've not read the books, and I'm also actually really excited for this next season with the characters it's going to be. So right now I'm fine with it, although I do love Benedict and I would like him to have his own love story as well sometime soon. Can we make sure that is season 4? Thank you. We then should have part 2 of Dune coming out this year. I enjoyed the first Dune film. It was a little bit slow because it's one book that's been split into 2 parts. It felt like a little bit anticlimactic. All the sort of more action-packed stuff that you'd be building up to in the later half of a book we got to that point and then the film stopped. So I'm excited for the second film because I feel like that's where things are going to start happening more. I did, like I said, enjoy the first one, so I'm excited for the second one. I do have the book, I haven't read it yet. I may try and read it before the second film comes out. All the rest of them now are ones that I have actually read the book for, so I would like to see the film so that I can see how they're adapted. The first one being Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. This is a prequel to The Hunger Games. I didn't love this book, but I didn't hate it. Like, I don't think it was necessary, but I also don't think it was a bad book. I'm not sure if it needs to be made into a film. It was already a bit unnecessary as a book, and I don't think we need to see it in another format either. But I am going to go in with an open mind because it could just be a really well made film, and I'm willing to be pleasantly surprised by it. Then we're going to move on to ones that I'm a little bit terrified of because these are all like books that I really, really love, and I'm worried about how they're going to do the adaptations. We'll start with the one that I'm probably the most confident in, particularly because we've had, again, a release date and some images from the production that have been released this week, and that is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. So this one is going to be a TV series. I think, again, this one's starting in March. I think March is just like a big release season for these things. This is another one actually that's felt like it's been like in the build up for years. I think actually last year I put it on my anticipated releases for this year because it felt like it should have come out. Like, it feels like they filmed it a while ago. But we've finally got a release date. I'm very, very excited for it. It feels like the sort of story that will work very, very well on film. I'm intrigued to see what they do with the songs of it and what they actually sound like, because we've got all the lyrics, so I'm intrigued to see what they sound like as a fully fleshed out song. And I'm very much here for the casting of this TV show as well. Like Sam Claflin in particular, I'm very, very excited to watch this TV show. I will also quietly mention that I don't think it's coming out this year. There is a Netflix movie, I think, that is in production for Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. We've not had any information on casting. We don't know when it's expected to come out, but you never know. That it might be further on in development than we've actually been made aware at the minute, and it might pop up at the end of the year. But it's definitely one that's sort of being made, and I would guess as well that if Daisy Jones is very popular, then things will pick up speed with Seven Husbands because they'll want to capitalise on that, obviously. Another one that I know has been filmed, but I'm not sure what the release date is Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. So this is one that actually, I think the film version got announced quite a while ago. I think it was just as the book was coming out. And obviously we've had a few John Green adaptations before. Fault in Our Stars being very popular, Paper Towns less so. Looking for Alaska is actually one of my favourite adaptations they've done of a John Green book, but it was a TV show and it didn't seem to get as much hype. And then now we're going to have Turtles All the Way Down. I do know that John Green has been fairly involved with the making of this film. Like, he's been on set quite a lot. I'm not sure if he's a producer actually, because he does have a production company, so I'm not sure if he's involved in that aspect. But from what I've heard of people on the set, so basically John Green and then his producing partner Rosianna Hoss Rojas, they seem to have been very happy with how things have been going so far, and it's making me very excited to go and see it because I really, really love this book. And I think it's one that was sort of missold to people in some ways, because when you read the synopsis it feels like one thing and it's very much something else. And the main sort of story of it is actually this young girl struggling with her mental health, and I think that it could be handled very, very well in a film adaptation, so I'm looking forward to seeing this one come out. And then the one that I'm very, very terrified of, but I'm going to try and be optimistic about, it is Red, White and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. So we do have a film version of this coming out this year. It's going to be on Amazon Prime. We've seen the casting. They've done like marketing clips and things on social media. Like, there's a lot of information out there about this film adaptation. Some of it is a little bit scary because it feels like because obviously they've had to like trim down the story in some places, and some of the characters that they've decided to cut out and sort of smush into one are a little bit questionable. But I'm gonna be optimistic. Like, I know that it has to be different from the book, and I'm gonna treat them as two very different things. And as long as they get that sort of core relationship of Henry and Alex right, then I think I'm gonna enjoy it. I feel like I can ignore some of the other stuff around it as long as they get that relationship right, because that's what I read the book for. But we will see. So that is all the book to movie adaptations I'm going to talk about at the minute. But we're going to move on to musical to movie adaptations. There's been less of these. This is the main reason why I had to go all in one video. It felt like every movie musical that I could think of was one that had come out like last year, and I was struggling to think of ones that came out this year, but I do have a couple. So I'll start off with the one that is also bookish, and it was Matilda the musical. This one's come out very, very recently. So obviously the stage show was originally based on the book by Roald Dahl, and now you have the film, which is based on the stage show. I really enjoyed this. It was definitely different from the stage show. Like, some glaringly obvious changes is that that like Matilda's brother has been cut as a character entirely. It's whole songs that are missing, partly because of that, some of the others just because it felt like it had a change in perspective. The film felt very much like it was told from a child's point of view, so any of the songs that were more wholly focused on the adults seem to have disappeared. In some ways it works, but there are also some songs that I'm really sad that aren't in there anymore. In general though, I did really enjoy the film. I just think I have an attachment to the stage show, so I'm always going to prefer that. But I did say when I watched it, if it's the first time that you're seeing the Matilda musical, it's going to be a very good way to see that, because it is still a very good adaptation. I just prefer the stage show. Then the only other sort of adaptation release I could find, because there are other musicals, there's things like Disenchanted, the sequel to Enchanted, but obviously that's an original movie musical. The only other adaptation one I could find was one that I don't have too much knowledge of the source material of, and it was 13 the musical, which was on Netflix this year. So this is based on the Broadway show that gave Ariana Grande her start in a career, and it's a musical all about 13-year-olds, and it was okay. I don't know if the Broadway version would have been any better. It was just like a basic teen film, but not a particularly fantastic one, and then every so often they broke into song. The songs were fine, but I could not tell you what a single one of them was, so clearly not that memorable. But yeah, it was an okay adaptation. I watched it, I'll probably never watch it again. And then the only other thing to mention, this one isn't actually an adaptation, it is literally just the stage show that has been filmed, and it was a Heather's Pro Shot. That one was filmed earlier on this year, and this one actually hasn't had a proper UK release yet. I may have already watched it, and it was good. There was just some weird editing choices in it, but overall the cast was good. It was a really good way to see Heather's. I think again, if it's one that you're not able to get to go and see, but you were able to watch the Pro Shot, do it. It's a really good way to be introduced to the musical, in the same way that watching like Hamilton or Newsies on Disney Plus is a really good way to be introduced to those shows. And then looking forward to next year's movie musicals. Some of these have already got dates that have been announced, some of them haven't. So we'll start off with the ones that I'm pretty sure are coming out next year. The first one being the live action version of The Little Mermaid. I'm very excited for this. What we've seen so far of Halle Bailey as Ariel, I'm very excited for this adaptation. We then have also got The Colour Purple, the musical version of The Colour Purple, coming out as a film, which is apparently going to be the end of next year. This is one actually that was a book to a movie, to a musical, and then back to a movie. It's got a long, complicated history, and I have not read the book, seen the film, or seen the musical. But I do know my mum and my sister have both read the book and seen the film, and both enjoyed it. What I know of the musical is mainly me watching videos of Cynthia Erivo singing songs from that show, because Cynthia Erivo, why would I not want to watch those clips? And yeah, I will go and see it. I know I will. I'm not particularly like hyped for it at the minute because I just don't know enough about it, but we'll see how that one goes later on next year. Then we've got ones that may come out next year, but I'm not entirely sure. So the first one being Greatest Days, which is the adaptation of the Take That musical, which previously was called The Band and has now been renamed to Greatest Days, and is going on tour this year actually, which probably will coincide with the release of the film. It's about like a group of friends who were obsessed with a boy band when they were younger, and they're all sort of like middle-aged now, and I think one of them was ill or something, and they were trying to go on like one last hurrah, but it's about like how they were bonded through this band when they were younger. It was an okay show. I saw it once. I have zero plans to see it again. Like, I'm not planning on seeing the tour. I will probably watch the film though, just to see what it's like. We also then do have some pro shots that have been filmed and don't seem to have a release date for yet. So 6 was filmed. I believe Aladdin was filmed as well. We don't know when these are going to get released, if they're going to get released, because there's plenty of things that they film just so that they have it available and then never actually release. So we'll see, but those are the 2 that actually feel like they are going to have a release. Like 6 would do very well. It's got all the hype, so why not release it? And Disney does have a history of releasing things on Disney Plus, so I wouldn't be surprised if Aladdin does actually pop up next year. And then I'm actually going to talk about a couple of releases that are a bit further afield. One of them I actually wasn't sure if it was coming out next year or the year after, because it feels like it's been in the making for so long, but apparently it's Christmas 2024, and that is Wicked, which is going to be split into 2 parts. So it's Christmas 2024 and Christmas 2025, which is so long to wait. But we've had a lot of casting news for it this week. It's finally like actually started filming. It's either already started or it's about to start. I know I saw something about it filming on Twitter, but I haven't actually like looked into the specific details of it. But the majority of the cast has been announced at this point. We've got Cynthia Erivo as Elphaba, we've got Ariana Grande as Glinda, we've got Jonathan Bailey as Fiyero, we've got Jeff Goldblum as a wizard, Michelle Yeoh as Madame Morrible, and you know I'm not going to actually go through the entirety of the cast list, but there's many people that have been announced, and I am cautiously optimistic with this. I am a little bit concerned of like the fact that they're splitting it into 2. Like, I just don't know if the momentum's going to work with it, but then again, having Defying Gravity as your end number in a film could work very well, and it will very much be like a before Wizard of Oz at school film, and then a film that takes place alongside Wizard of Oz, so that could work really well. And I have liked other films by the director of it, so we're going to be optimistic. And if anything, I get to see Cynthia Erivo and Jonathan Bailey sing the songs from Wicked. Like Jonathan Bailey's going to get to sing Dancing Through Life, and Cynthia Erivo's going to get to do Defying Gravity, but also No Good Deed, and then they're going to be together and they're going to do As Long As You're Mine, and it's going to be fantastic. Like that's the main reason that I'm going to go and see these films. And then the other one that we have had casting news for this week, and it felt like it just kind of came out of the blue, is Mean Girls the musical, the movie. And so another one that I believe actually was originally adapted from a book, and then it became a film, and then it became a stage show, and now it's becoming a movie of the stage show. So, and it's a musical that I haven't had a chance to see because it hasn't come over to the UK yet, but I have listened to it. I enjoy it. It's not one that's in my sort of regular rotation, but every so often I will listen to it. My sister's seen it on stage and she enjoyed it, and I love Mean Girls the film, so I will go and see it. I will always be like a little bit hesitant because I'm just like, the Mean Girls film is so good, do we need another film adaptation? But we have had some casting announced for it and it's looking interesting so far. I particularly like that they have got Regina George from Broadway to do it, because I always like it when they do actually keep some Broadway or West End actors in the film adaptations. It just feels right to me. And yeah, I don't know when it's coming out. I'm gonna guess 2024 because we've only just had the casting announcement, but another one to keep on your radar. That's right, so that is everything. That is all the sort of adaptations that I've seen in the last year and ones I am looking forward to coming out in the next year, maybe two. But yeah, that is everything. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff down below. Let me know what your favourite adaptation is that you've seen this year or that you're looking forward to coming out. And I will talk to you guys tomorrow with a new video. Bye.